And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. This is Daily Download, and I am your host and tour guide, kind of like Julie McCoy from The Love Boat, but different. Joe Concha. Anybody born after 1980 saying, who is Julie McCoy? Anyway.
I know who Julie McCoy is. I know, I'm old.
Rick does, that's true. They dated once back in '84, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
We all had a crush on her, right?
Yeah. That's not what we're talking about right now. No tangents. Today in Alabama, the state started issuing gay licenses to gay couples despite an attempted block by conservative Chief Justice of the state's Supreme Court, Roy Moore. Justice Moore issuing an order late on Sunday directing probate judges not to provide marriages to gay couples. The reason, you ask? Moore feels Alabama judges are not bound by a federal ruling last month that shot down the state's ban on gay marriage. Governor Mike Huckabee agrees with that logic and says that he believes, or at least he states, that states should have, the final say on the legality of gay marriage.
One thing I am angry about, though, Hugh, is this notion of judicial supremacy, where if the courts make a decision, I hear governors and even some aspirants to the presidency say, well, that's settled, and it's the law of the land. No, it isn't the law of the land. Constitutionally, the courts cannot make a law. They can interpret one, and then the legislature has to create enabling legislation, and the executive has to sign it and has to enforce it.
Now, Rick, you're shaking your head. Huckabee used the term, and I'm quoting here, notion of judicial supremacy. Does he have a point?
No, he really doesn't. I mean, he and Roy Bean, who is shockingly the chief Supreme Court judge in Alabama, Roy Moore, who has been kicked out of office twice before, by the way, run for governor twice and failed. They are what's called nullificationists. They actually believe that the state law takes supremacy over the United States Constitution. Sorry, guys, but it doesn't. No. And the federal courts do have the right to rule on constitutionality of these laws. And not only did Moore step in on the federal court decision, he also now has ignored the Supreme Court, who today refused to enforce this.
Are there any other lawyers here that could chime in?
Yes, right here.
Oh,
by the way.
happened?
It just so happens that I am here. Well, the truth of the matter is, first of all, he has set up these probate judges for suits against them. And this afternoon, somebody actually filed suit because they have got to enforce these laws, and they could actually have their attorney's costs and more against them. You know, you've got Clarence Thomas and Justice Scalia with a scathing dissent about the order from the Supreme Court today, saying that they should have waited for this to give states their deference. And that is true. But ultimately, like Rick said, just like on this panel, the lawyer has the last word.
Interesting. Jenny.
7-2, baby.
Here's the real problem, and I'm from Alabama. I've been watching this go on.
Where's your accent? You have zero accent.
Well, it comes out when I drink a little whiskey. But anyway, the real problem is that this is Roy Moore and Mike Huckabee's religious beliefs that they are trying to enforce on people.
You're a reverend?
I am a Christian, I am a reverend, and I believe that people should be able to get married no matter what. And actually, I wish I was down there in Birmingham today. It's a beautiful park right outside the courthouse, and I wish I was there to do some marriages. But you know, there's a big problem when we cry religious freedom all the time, but then we want to take our interpretations of the Bible that a lot of Christians do not agree with, especially younger Christians, and then enforce them on other people.
Okay.
That's what's happening here.
That is a human argument, that is an emotional argument.
But it's not the law.
The legal argument is what, Heather?
Well, the legal argument is ultimately that the Supreme Court wins. When it comes to deciding whether or not the laws are constitutional, the Supreme Court wins. Now, the point is, though, that the majority of voters in Alabama agree with Huckabee and agree with this idea that it should be illegal. That's not enough. Although the voters may want it to be enough, that's not enough.
If the founders wanted the Bible to be the ruling document of our country, they would have made the Bible the founding document of our country, not the Constitution. What kills me are these people who yell that they're strict constitutionalists until it bothers them. They don't like it. And I'm afraid Governor Huckabee is very much one of those people. He's all for the Constitution until it goes against him.
Yeah, see, these arguments aren't mutually exclusive. It can be a human argument and a legal argument all together. And you know, there are a lot of Christians who are standing up in Alabama and saying, no, we are for equality and freedom. We want our LGBT brothers and sisters to have federal and state rights. They are productive members of our society, and we want them to have that.
More and more states
That's right.
are going the way of gay marriage. Is it now inevitable that it will be the law of the land, Jenny?
Absolutely.
I think so. Absolutely.
Rick and Heather, you
No doubt
agree?
about it. We've got
And sooner than
37
you think, because the Supreme Court's
I
going
mean,
to
if
hear it.
Alabama's
Spring.
there
That's
already,
right.
I mean.
It's true. You know, we're at number 37 here, and in the spring, the Supreme Court is going to make it so that it is the law of the land. And it's nice, I think, that we have done it step by step rather than in one fell swoop, because it's given people who may otherwise have some trouble a little bit of time to ease into it. And I think that's what the justices wanted.
And if you're a court watcher, you got one heck of a hint this morning.
That's right.
When seven Supreme
of them,
Court
yes.
justices say they will not enforce that stay, they are telling you where they're leaning
in
on the question.
they are.
In the dissent, Thomas said so. He
Yes, he
said,
did.
listen,
That's
you guys
right.
are tipping your hand here, and
That's
that's
right.
not the way we do things, which he may be right about, but they are tipping their hand, and we're
But-
headed in that direction.
He may be right about that, but at the same time, you can't enforce
Can't
a stay
stop.
you think is incorrect just
That's
because you
right.
might tip
Just
your
be-
hand.
that's right.
So.
It'll be an interesting election in 2016 because you'll have the GOP, who in the past,
Sadly, yes.
That's cute. But even President Obama in 2008 and Hillary Clinton, they both evolved on
Yes,
gay marriage,
that's
right?
right.
Because they saw where the winds were shifting, and
Right.
politicians do that. I'm not saying it's a Democratic thing, but in 2016, I just wonder, can a Governor Huckabee still be anti-gay marriage and actually win anywhere outside of Iowa? Can any of the other candidates who seem to be a little bit more moderate socially, whether you're talking Christie or you're talking Walker, I'm just wondering if this
Fair
is
question.
an issue where it's already been basically decided.
But isn't that the problem with the primary? Because maybe they can win the primary, but they can't win the general election. And that's the
exactly.
problem the
That's a great
Republican
point.
Party does have.
Did I
right
ever
now.
tell you how astute my friend Heather is at analyzing politics? She's exactly
She's a legal
right.
genius.
They'll win some primaries because, as somebody pointed out earlier, the people of Alabama are not happy that the Supreme Court ruled this way, and Huckabee's going to do just fine there. But he will not be elected president
right.
with that
But you
kind
also
of
have
position.
to ask who go to the polls, you know.
Right. It's true,
and in
too.
Alabama, there is a deep movement of young people.
We got to get out in a second, so this will be a quick lightning round. Taking a libertarian point of view, should government be involved in gay marriage at all?
Some have proposed that they not be. And in fact, in Oklahoma, one of the propositions is let's not have civil marriages at all, and that takes away this problem altogether.
Rick, 5 seconds.
It's not about government being involved. It's about the Constitution, Equal Protection Clause, protecting people who wish to do it.
Well done, Jenny.
What Rick said.
That is
Love,
impressive.
baby.
Pithy. Coming up next on the Daily Wrap, is global warming the biggest scam ever? We will discuss. This is the Daily Wrap on Newsmax TV from a chilly, sleety, miserable, wish I were in Alabama kind of New York City.
Alabama.
Weather.